Question?
You want to see the other image?
Yeah, I think that would be,
Judah, the Newland rails based on any historical evidence or just a design that will be appropriate for the house?
That's a good question. One that Neil would probably be able to answer instead of me,
Sure.
but I don't think, we might not have evidence of that, but I think regardless, it probably would have been something you would have seen, otherwise they definitely wouldn't have
yeah,
put it on that plan.
Yeah.
So I'm not actually sure.
are you in any kind of contact with Neil?
Yeah, I have, when you
You can
email
email him, yeah,
most of the time.
yeah, I mean, that's a definitely a legitimate thing to ask. I can't think Neil would be making it up.
No, I just, right.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know anything,
Yeah,
but if there weren't specific designs, then I guess you could just come up with one that would fit the house.
yeah,
yeah.
So,
so the initiative's coming from the Hanford Family Foundation or Association.
That's correct, yeah.
Is there an overall, you may have said this at a previous meeting, but is there an overall target for what the historical period they're shooting? I mean, in the absolute, is there a year that is the target for the house, for the Abe house?
I believe it's around 1750,
Okay,
like just mid-century, or within that decade. There's a bit of debate
yeah,
on sort of the original dates of construction of the houses, and some of them are sort of built, or added on to over the course of many years. We like to sort of say we're a 17th century site, but in reality, a lot of them would have began construction towards the start of the 1700s. So I think that's sort of the thought process, and like that target date of mid-century, because it that was sort of when most of what you see on the houses was done or around then. But it kind of depends on the house too.
yeah, definitely.
But 1750, I think, is the actual.
Yeah. So, I mean, something I would say in response to that is this is an alteration that moves toward that goal, which is obviously a really good goal for Figueroa Street and for the community. So to me, that's positive. What's on my mind now is whether a public hearing is needed. On the one hand, I can't really anticipate what an objection would be. And on the other hand, I guess I prefer to err in the direction of just making sure that complete transparency and public input has happened. So I guess my recommendation is that we go ahead with the public hearing, which means a little bit of noticing on your part, but nobody can come back later and object. I guess that would be my thought. I can't imagine that there's going to be anything that would persuade us that it's not a worthy project. Anybody feel differently? I just think when you're dealing with Huguenot Street, you want to just be extra careful. So if that came to pass, we'd have a public hearing on February the 10th.
Okay.
And you would have an answer, and I would anticipate it's a positive one.
Okay.
Less than a month.
Yeah, I don't think that would be too much of a problem. I don't think we're really I'm actually not really sure much work could really get done between now and then to
I
begin
mean,
with.
yeah,
So
we may be into frozen ground.
yeah, with pointing and digging in general might be kind of tricky.
But
So
that would set you up quite nicely for like March.
yeah,
Excavation work.
which is sort of the target, and it's going to be tricky working around field trips anyway. So this might become sort of a piecemeal project,
Yeah.
depending on what the contractors need to. So
So we don't really need, I mean, if that's the consensus, I don't think we have to vote on, it's not really an action, do we have to vote on? Here. Agreed. That sounds great, so you're familiar with the process, Phil, we'll send you, it's gonna be the same list of, same notification list as you've done for the branches.
Yeah, I can, I'll go back to him with that and I can ask him about
Be nice just to know
the details.
that, just then we can put it in the record, and also, if, I mean, it's either based on something factual, concrete to the house, or it's gonna be based on the 18th century designs, and that's gonna strengthen
Mhm.
the case, should somebody come in. That's great. Okay, so that'll be, February 10th.
All right, great.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thanks. Okay. Design review, now we're putting on the other hat. So quick updates on Harmony Hall. That's what it looked like 10 days ago or so. They're really moving fast. And our last discussion had to do with the roofing material and to some extent, some of the trim work, and I think we came to a good place on that. I'm feeling, you know, as I see the thing take shape, I actually feel better about that alteration that we had to address than I did when we had to address it. So I think it's looking like a good building, and it was nice that last meeting, which was November, that they were so open to a discussion and a recommendation about slate style shingling. So I think that's going to be a nice touch. At that meeting, if everybody remembers, we pledged to follow up on siding color, which Camilla and I consulted with, and it's going to be color not too far from this, maybe slightly darker.
It's maybe a bit more huge.
Yeah, but in that family, and we chose that out of, I think, about 4 different options that we sort of narrowed it down to. It looked like the best. It also looked like one that would complement the complex, your complex storage, just to the north. So, and the other thing that we talked about was the temperature of the lighting, which they were very open. They said, you know, tell us what to do. It took a long time to figure out what's going on the campus side. There's actually a couple of different things, but we've got a pretty good idea of what the temperature is there. George gave us input from his complex, and we've asked them just to kind of stay in that thing. So it's going to be somewhere around 3,000, which I think is going to be good. It's not going to be highly noticeable. There are trees that break things up as well. The larger principle that in doing that, it gave me a chance to alert the planning board that we should all be looking at this on Chestnut. It was Shane, you'd actually originally raised that. And I think it's a really good thing to be looking for, especially up there, because it's going to be a lot of lighting. So I think we just kind of help people stay within pretty, you know, narrow or acceptable range. It should be fine. Well, what else from the meeting with Harmony?
Well, we can also discussing the color and the metal effects. It's like the time nice with the green siding. It's the
So it's this one here, colonial red.
That's a different one.
That's just underlayment.
Oh.
It's sort of in that family, but it's still a little rich.
and then the silver accents, which was
Yeah.
we have different options either the lead.
Did we end up? Yeah, and so for the trim, we recommended medium or possibly dark cedar for the trim work. So I'm sorry, the cedar.
Unfortunately, we had more work because the windows were all
Yeah,
since they had.
yeah. this is maybe an example of tightening up this design consultation a little bit so that maybe white, nice white windows are the absolute best choice given everything else, but it'll probably. Yeah. And it's gonna be a big, the more we hear about housing problems, and especially affordable housing, this is gonna be a really good addition to the community. It was a very good consultation and I left it most recently that, we would be happy to consult on any other design elements that they like to. Anything else?
Yes, we probably to change the window, this was the window style. It's not what we originally discussed with them. But the mounting big thing is more like what you see on the engineering at the university. That's it's almost like an arts and crafts, modified arts and crafts style.
But again, that they were ordered. They were already. So it feels like, a success and it's really good to have applicants who listen to the advice and genuinely want to talk about it and take advice. Let's invite Ed and Phil as well. Would you both like to work?
I'll stay right.
Okay,
That's
this way we have an
I'm here
audience as well.
for support.
Good evening. Good evening to you, Adam. Give us some background. How long have you had 199?
Purchased 199, middle of October. Really wasn't looking to get into any more real estate. This had become available and as George knows, my son joined my practice 2 years ago. And he plans on staying in the industry for quite some time, so thought it was a good opportunity to pick up the property and to move our offices.
You're gonna have a great location.
Yeah, thank you. The building was built in 1928. You can see from the pictures, we're gonna replace the windows, but the windows are gonna be identical to the ones that are there from the books. 6/0 all the way around. On the back porch, you can see we're gonna move the steps from the side to the rear. On the front of the property, they hadn't closed that in. And they had done that because this was because of that, about counselors, they had a bunch of counselors' offices there. So they had used that as a waiting room on the inside. As you guys know, I'm doing the building downtown, I want to try and bring it back to what it looked like at the open porch. I think it's 9 or 10 feet deep. Currently on the inside, there's 2 doors. We're going to on the right side where it's enclosed. There's
Where the steps are.
so right here, there's that door. There's another door next to it. We're just going to have the entrance. Once you go in that first door, there'll be a door going in from the outside. And then we'll put these 2 doors that'll be in line with the steps. And then for this office, we were going to have this be 2 doors as well. One functioning, the other one's going to be the fixed door.
So that's something I didn't get from the schematic. There's a door hiding behind that first pillar.
Right. Well,
No, to the right.
To the right of that.
Oh,
you wouldn't see it because it's enclosed right now.
okay, but it is in the. I mean,
It's
that's,
just how it's
it's just the post is
yeah,
in the way.
Correct.
It's this angle, okay. Now I'm starting to see a little more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So pretty much it'll be 2 doors with the 2 windows above, 2 over 2. And then those 2 windows in front of the steps
No,
will be again 2 over 2 with the door. It's a single door that's hidden behind the post.
That's what I didn't see, you know, I looked at it a little bit.
And that's the steps to go upstairs. So that door has to be there.
Okay, and it's existing?
Correct.
Okay.
And then, you know, the only thing on the side, on the corners, there'll be white trim. Where that's not reflective on that. So where it's all gray, the other corner boards are all.
Okay, got it. And I think George told me you're thinking of using LP.
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
fluid?
It's, I don't know what they call this, it's sort of pebbled but not drained.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the smooth panel.
Okay,
So that's
so it's
what
got a
we're-
little bit of the texture.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a much better.
Everybody wants-
Yeah, that's, yeah. Yeah, the advice always in the preservation community is going with smooth rather than the grain.
Yeah.
Yeah. My neighbors just put this up. And I talked with the contractor who was putting up, and he really likes it.
Yeah, when I was doing the research and the reading on it, it's, you know, it's easier to work with.
Yeah.
Goes up quicker
Yeah,
and less, it actually is more impact resistant.
yeah,
Then
because
the-
it's not fragile.
Correct.
And,
Correct.
the fellow I talked to did say you gotta just make sure to prime any cuts.
Yeah.
Because there's sort of porousness as well. And are you going to reside the whole house?
Yeah, so back to yes.
Great.
Or I can leave the vinyl.
You know what my vote would be? It's good. Well, this is a huge change and improvement. I think the thing that really strikes probably everybody is getting that enclosure out,
Yeah.
which,
When you look at the properties to the east of two properties, the property right next to it was the same layout, but they converted that all into housing.
yeah,
So that porch is now a bedroom. And same thing with the 203 Main. That's the gem building.
yeah.
That porch they enclosed as well.
Snapped a picture of the neighbor. So I'm not sure how quickly I can find it, but yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to open the porch back up.
What do you know about the pillars?
The columns,
Yeah,
you know, it's
were they boxed in, do you think?
so driving around, I was able to find 5 or 6 houses that have similar. The teen scene, believe it or not, or the youth center,
Yeah,
they have it, but theirs is in stone. And then when you go down there, just right around the corner, they have very similar style. Off of right on the corner of Lookout. And what's that?
That's Manhunt,
Manhunt.
North Manhunt,
No, I was thinking, where's Pickle Pig? It's the
what's Oakwood.
So Oakwood, so that house on the corner, they have the same, similar style. I'm not sure, that's the only question, I don't know.
okay. Yeah.
It looks like they're pretty much original, because there's half columns on the back of the porch,
Okay, oh, yeah, that would.
and they look pretty original.
Okay, that may be. My response was only it looks a little, the base looks a little higher than I'm used to seeing. Like less column and more base.
Mhm.
And I just may be flat out wrong.
Tom, I think it's this rendering, because it isn't that tall on the side.
No, I was.
So it is pretty, yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah, pretty nice.
Yeah. That may just be what it is.
And I
But it'd be
I
interesting
went-
to see if it was part of.
I went to see Carol, I reached out on, historical loopholes. Can't find a photo of this building anywhere. The only thing I could find was going back to late 70s, early 80s, and I think that was Sisti.
Oh,
John Sisti, and that was all, the enclosure was already there, so I couldn't get really anything to go off of.
Well, it's definitely an improvement. And are those planter boxes next to the two columns there in steps?
I am not sure. When they built the enclosure, they look like they were built after. I think when they built the enclosure, and there was probably 4 planters, yes.
I mean, that could be a nice opportunity to get some.
And again, this is, you know, gonna be my office, I will be there, you know, it's not something I'm looking at my time, it's. What we plan on.
Really great things.
Yeah, looking forward to it, very, very excited about it. Yeah, nice to get back to the village.
Yeah. I approached it from the back and realized it must have an easement or shared driveway.
No, so the driveway to the property is on the side. Yes,
But then it's paved right up to the edge of.
correct, so just, you know, a little history on the building was that was a residential building at one point. That is the only building, I believe it's the only building on Main Street that is not hooked up to sewer. It's public water, so basically it came up to the bank. Went north. Made a right, came back down Harrington Street and out. So, like I said, that was a residence in the rear of the property was where the septic in the field was. And that collapsed however many years ago. And they couldn't put another one in there, so believe it or not, the septic and everything is in the front of the property. And couldn't handle residential. So there's only 2 half beds in that space.
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
So you were asking about the shared driveway, so, you know, most people who access that go in through M&T.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I spoke with the branch manager there, he was very nice and, you know. It's a community space, is, you know, basically what he said.
Might be a little mutual benefit there.
And I know you were talking about lighting before. You know, from a lighting standpoint, I don't plan on shooting any lighting except, you know, something underneath, because there's plenty of light that comes from the bank.
Yeah.
And the light that comes across the street from the middle school. You know, it's entirely lit up.
Boy, and not least because after the renovation of the middle school, the lighting intensity in that block really got a lot more.
Yeah.
Really, I wouldn't say improved, but more intense.
No, it's like that whole corner is well lit.
Yeah. Great. Well, how can we help it? You want comments? Do you want some?
I am always open to comments. You know, I've kind of just taken what we did downtown. Not looking to do anything crazy. But yeah, we'd love any feedback that anybody has.
Well, I'll just reiterate mine. It'll be interesting to see if we get into it. Whether those columns are higher than the original were, and if so, maybe drop it back, as you said, Jim, maybe it's. Partly perspective, although the photo suggested they were high, but. It'd be interesting to investigate. That's just an aesthetic thing. I'm gonna 10-1 it's original.
Well, it's interesting because it looks like the original clapboard is still on those columns. They're not vinyl. The whole
Yeah,
building's vinyl, but the
noticed
porch
they didn't
columns.
do the.
So
That's a
And,
pretty good indication.
pretty scaled and it looks pretty original.
Especially if we talk about how it was mired.
All the clapboards might in this corner, you know, outside miters and.
Craft.
Yeah, and the gentleman who built the property right next to it at 201. And he was also the person who had built the building they just took down across the street at the middle school.
Yeah.
So he had built all 3 of those properties, according to Carol.
We looked into the one, this one down, that was Schulte's coming to mind, but that's the wrong era. You remember the builders? Knew?
Oh.
We knew it at one point when we conducted research on that.
But the Hasbro?
It was that,
I think it was a Hasbro.
yeah, it was. It was. Yeah. So that, yeah, that's my only comment, but it probably isn't gonna go anywhere. I think the siding is a great choice. The array of doors and windows, so you need the double door on
Left.
on the left.
Do we need the double door? No, but when, if you're looking at it straight on. By having a door and a window, it didn't look right.
How about having the door with two side lights, kind of similar to the existing windows that are
You're talking about on the left side,
on the left, yes.
but it's because we had the double windows up top. Looking at it as a, having two windows up top and then one door with two side lights.
I feel like the porch roof kind of breaks it up though. I don't know if you necessarily read those all together. You know, I think
Because if I'm not sure if you're talking about the same thing with the existing. I'm talking about as a configuration of this instead of the door. Those are windows right now, right?
They are, yes,
Yes.
Only windows, right?
correct.
So instead of putting a double door there. Having a window that's a single window and two side lights kind of like the window.
But he needs the door, needs a door.
But
Right.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to match up the tops and the bottoms.
I agree, Camilla. I see what you're saying about matching the windows up top, especially since it's, the windows on the other side of the porch.
Yep.
Line up. But I think since it's a door, it's already inherently different. Like, I don't know if you read that the double door matches the windows. I think the door stands on its own, and I think for Camilla's point, I think the door with the side lights might look more, I guess, in keeping with, the style of the house.
I will tell you the challenge that I run into with that is on the inside of that office space. Because we're gonna have the door on the right is the one that opens, that's gonna open to the wall. That would cause me to move that in
Okay.
further, and it breaks up the inside of the wall.
Mhm.
Inside,
Oh, so you're up against
the
the
inside
wall.
of the office, yes.
one of the size aspect. The porch here, or no? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's started out as a residence. It's got all the hallmarks of residential, but the street is now commercial. I think about this with the Caldwell Banker building. That's got pane glass, it's a single pane windows because it's a business, but it was once a house. Yeah. Well, I guess that's why we're talking, just
Yeah.
something to
No,
think about and see if there's,
listen, I don't do this every day, so I appreciate everyone.
pretty good hands with George as well. The perspective kind of doesn't give us the answer, right? Because we're seeing it a little bit at an angle, therefore not seeing it straight on.
Yeah, when you look at it now, it's not centered, it's off by, maybe like 18 inches or 24 inches, we're trying to line it up.
Comments or observations?
Well, I personally like the double doors. And when you look at it head on, you can see it looks really well proportioned. And yes, I agree that the roof breaks it up, but it still looks well proportioned from the road when you're looking at it straight on. And this might be a good time to bring this up, but Ed hasn't finalized on the style of the door. So I think he might be leaning towards full glass doors, where he could have his name of his company put on the glass. Similar to what I have at my office. And those 3 front doors would be full glass and his back door.
For those, I can't tell if we're seeing 6/1 doors or if we're picking up the window behind the door there.
No, that's its own wall,
Okay,
as the windows.
yeah, full glass might look really good. That,
That's, again, this is, one of those things as you're going through the process.
yeah. I think that could be really good, and then it definitely distinguishes it as a different space from the windows. Yeah, it's gonna move in that direction.
I can't tell you that the 6 over, that will be gone.
Okay.
On,
that would be
on the
half
doors.
glass. Yeah.
On the doors only.
Yeah, I'm with George. If you're seriously thinking about it, I think I'm with you both on that. The full glass to me just distinguishes it better.
Yeah.
It just does. Are the doors gonna hit the exact vertical lines of the 2 windows above? Or just the middle line and be a little wider?
No, we're gonna be,
It's all one vertical.
yes,
What's nice is not only is it lined up with the windows above, which I don't think is that important because of the roof. But when you look at the building head on, it's set, being that you only have 3 columns instead of 4, it's centered in columns. So it makes sense, and those windows are centered on the steps, which are centered on the columns.
That makes sense.
That's good. Yeah, this perspective doesn't.
And it looks a little bland now, but I think when Ed puts all the white corner boards, it's gonna pop the side and give more detail.
And these guys make corner? They make trim as
Yeah.
well? That's good.
You know, also all his windows will be boarded in 5/4 by 4.
Yeah, so a little profile.
Yeah, there'll be white trim, 5/4 by 4, white trim around the windows. And then the corner boards, 5/4 by 4 or 5/4 by 6. Once we rip the siding wall, we're gonna see what's there. And we'll match what was there, rip the vinyl siding wall.
I'll save you a piece.
I'll put it in.
We're having to deliver to your bond, Tom.
Yeah. Good. I think it's great. I'm guessing you'll have to have a handrail or handrails.
Yes.
Now, that's something to think about. I mean, maybe get something custom. Yeah, it's just gonna look so much better.
Yeah, I mean, the one handrail there now is. Not really sure what the thought process was on that.
Often there isn't a lot of thought. Yes, yeah. No, it's a great opportunity to give it.
So when you replace the window trim, I assume is, I just want to ask that the plan is to go back to like how it is now, where it's just you have a sill with no skirt below it. Like you're not planning on like picture framing the windows, right, with the trim? You know, you're gonna keep the same window trim style as it is now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Well, right now it's Captain Aluminum.
yeah, it still looks nice though, I mean,
Yeah.
I just, like, I think that's
That's
correct for the,
profile.
it's correct for the style of the house.
Yeah. Well, they capped what was there.
Yeah, exactly.
You think you need a gutter on the porch roof or
I
maybe?
think
Yes.
Yeah, there's a gutter there with no leak.
Okay,
And dirt. So,
yeah, so
where this, since the steps are gonna be off the rear, then yes, we will need a gutter there.
I think Andy William got away with a diverter over his steps, if memory serves me. Because he was really worried about the look of it. And I think he just did a V-shaped diverter. and
Which-
took care of-
which is nice, because bringing the leader down on those columns is gonna be terrible, so, you know, there could be 2 diverters put on that front porch, which would be really nice to divert the water that way.
Yeah,
so,
just keep eyes
Yes.
system.
Yes,
I think Andy William, do you know his office? Yeah, just on, he's a couple of doors down.
Yeah.
from you.
yeah, there's a
Might
bunch
have to
of,
look.
also
That
Water
was-
Street Market has a few of them.
Yeah.
Nice diverters, they did nice, you know, pent up so nice, not all,
Doesn't take much and.
no, that's a great idea.
I'm seeing a leader though in the photo
Well, let's see.
on the left side.
Yeah, but it's not connected.
Oh, interesting.
Somewhere else, like,
No, I was trying to look at Andy's,
oh,
On the listing photo that comes up. And
yeah.
Oops. Anyway, that's an idea.
Yeah, no,
Save the.
well, they put it right in the front like that, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Really behind it. But yeah.
Anybody else like suggestions or ideas or observations?
I have a question about the colors, because, you know, the house has a bit of a craftsman feel to it. And they tend to use more earth tones. And like, it's like, like, maybe the kind of colors. Would you consider something in those lines, or do you like the light?
I like the light color.
How about if
The reason why that web were gray, like similar to the other buildings, because that's a fairly new roof on there and it's gray. So if it was more of an earth tone roof, we would have probably gone with earth tone. Maybe that green that you have there or something like that, but it's a gray roof.
There's a great opportunity to bring some color in these brackets on the porch.
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
those are
Yes,
maybe we can do that.
Maybe the planters too.
Yeah.
just to exit it?
yes.
Yeah, that.
I've got a picture of the side of the house with some shutters. Are there plans for shutters? Or
Right now, no.
Mhm.
There's just so many windows. I was thinking of that, you know, if you look at a lot of the other houses on the street, on Main Street, you know, they have them on the front of the property. And I was thinking maybe up top on the 2 double windows up there, but as of right now, no. But when I was talking with George, he was thinking that back in the day, you know.
It didn't have shutters.
I don't think, I'm thinking 1928.
Right,
The
there
last-
weren't no
last
shutters,
thing
so
people-
kind of,
Right, that was last generation. Yeah. Do they look like they're vinyl shutters?
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
So it's somebody's aesthetic, you know.
Yeah.
So that'll be a plus. I think just getting it back to more craftsman.
So George, you think the clapboard on the front is the original
I
siding?
think so.
Okay, that's great. So I guess the new siding all over the house will match that size and exposure, right? Instead of the smaller aluminum. one?
Yes.
That's great. Yeah, not to state the obvious, but
no, it's fair.
Michael, you can,
No, it's great.
I think,
Yes.
Ed, we really appreciate your coming and this is great.
And thank you for the suggestions. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We'll just,
We can look at some colors.
Yeah.
that people want.
Yes.
Yeah.
did you have a hand in, 68, 70 Main?
I think you should show them the color you're thinking about, this way,
Yeah.
it's kind of complete here.
Yes. Camilla's just great on colors, so if you want another set of eyes, she's like.
I'll stop by one day with this and we can go over that. Call it Camilla's Cool.
We just go around this village seeing the color schemes that Camilla's helped.
Yeah, but
But it's,
again, very much looking forward to, being in the village there,
yeah,
working and,
yeah.
thank you.
I look forward to it. So we'll be your neighbors. That sounds great. Call on us. I mean, George is kind of the liaison. So
Yeah. These are good liaisons.
yeah, well, we're glad to have him. for sure.
Well, I think Ed's gonna want to, start the siding. As soon as he finishes doing some little detail stuff inside, and whenever the carpenters have time, so. I guess you're looking to get approval to.
Yeah, well, we'll write that up. Okay. I mean, yes, approve. What I would ordinarily do is just kind of recap.
Yeah.
Some of the things we talked about, some of the things to consider. But yeah, that's great.
Excellent.
I'm looking at those planters and that feels like maybe a chance to bring another color into. You could have some even two colors, put a cap on it or something. Yeah.
Or those steps are gonna get all pointed up.
Nice.
One or two little areas of the settle, are you gonna, we're gonna do those in wood?
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're gonna cover them in wood, the
Oh,
way it originally was.
okay. Oh, all right. So the brickwork was done later.
Yeah, that was done later.
Good.
All right.
Nice thing about owner occupancy is people actually care.
Oh,
about buildings that they live and work in.
That's-
Yeah,
Yes.
that sounds great. So in the next couple of days, I will forward a summary, but go for it.
Great.
Sounds great. Hope
Thank
the
you.
weather holds.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
All right,
Thank you both.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Chris. Great. George, thanks for your part in getting us to this point. Updates and discussions. This is the part where I hope we can go pretty quickly. The railroad history and activity, there's actually a lot going on there. So a 4-person board has formed. There's now an entity called the Wallkill Valley Railroad Association, whose mission is to recover what we can of Wallkill Valley Railroad history. I'm on the board. We are hoping to talk to the village board in February to ask permission to store donated rails on the site, to do some clearings so that we can get a survey done to see if it's possible to get some siding in there. Once that happens, then we're going to be in a position of having donated rails, but no ties, very little hardware, and no budget to do that. So that's when this organization will start going to civic groups, putting in grants, et cetera, maybe doing local fundraising to see about raising money to do this. But the one thing that I've been bringing to the committee all along is, the signage is really important, not just throwing down track, but making sure that there's signage next to explain what a siding was, why siding is so important to the economy of places that had sidings, etc. So, if this comes to pass, we can be sure that it's well marked and explained as a part of local history. So things could, in the next couple of months start happening. And so I just wanted to make sure that I would be accurate in saying that this committee supports that idea when I go to the village board. No objections to saying that in general terms.
Is the location still what was proposed?
It's still what's proposed until a survey would suggest otherwise. But clearly, the place that makes the most sense is closest to Main Street if it can be done. But the topography is difficult there, so we may be told that there's not enough room, or there's too much earth moving and wall building, and then we have to think about going a little further north.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had started to look into a place where you could store the rails and in the meantime, is that still something of interest to you all?
If it's not too much trouble to pursue that, it might give us an option if they say no.
Where would you keep them?
I think the thinking now is just put them basically across from the railroad station,
Oh, and just leave them
just
out. in
on the
outside.
side, you know, so
Okay.
nobody trips over them.
Okay.
Just off to the side. There's something like 540 pounds each, so they're not gonna be easy to.
How many are they?
It depends, it's not so much how many they are, because they're in various pieces, but it would be up to about 50, maybe 60 feet of donated track, and then other people on this board are starting to nose around to see about other salvage rail. One version of this plan would be that there'd be 200 feet of siding, so you could really see what it looked like as opposed to just a little circle. The Wallkill Valley Land Trust is supportive of it as well, so it's not their property, it's still village property, but they manage it, oversee it. So that's what I've got on number one.
So before you leave that, so there is a possible location in a barn on Huguenot Street. The situation is the person who owns the property is not local, the property manager is local, and they're gonna check with the owner about storing it in the lower part of the farm.
Okay.
The property manager asked me whether there would be any willingness to pay some rent, and I said I didn't really know. Why don't you find out what that could be? And he asked me for how long would storage be, and I had no idea, so I said it could be a few years.
Yeah, I think it's
And so. Anyway, so it could be, so I will, when I have additional details, I'll let you know.
okay. As the rent question, I mean, at the moment, this organization doesn't have any.
Sure, yeah,
But,
and there might be no reason to. The owner might decide that it doesn't matter if it's. It's not, he's not gonna have to, as far as I know, displace anything to. Move this in, it's unused space.
Okay.
So, but I'll let you know, I just have.
Thanks, thank you. Lynn.
Yeah, sure.
That's the best lead we've had.
Yeah.
Huguenot Street report, really briefly, we should anticipate an application from the Canon Schwartz family at 111 Huguenot. They inquired over the holidays, but couldn't make this deadline. They thought they would for February. I don't know what the application will be for. On 115 Huguenot Street, just I think 2 doors, 1 door down. A roof replacement question came to me. It's clearly like for like, and I said that we communicated that to the building department just yesterday. So that I think is done. Is there anything else on Huguenot Street? Thinking especially 130, any news?
130, the price dropped again. When it went on the market, it was 1.295, and it dropped to 1.195. And now it has dropped again to 1,069,000. So that's a significant drop from where it was. They had an open house on Saturday. Not much seemingly their activity going on.
Actually, I'm working on my dad wants to fix up his garage at 123. So I'm working on some designs with him, but we'll see. So he's pushing me to try and get on the February agenda. So I just want to mention that.
Nothing.
So,
We're gonna have our first case of a recusal.
yeah.
That'd be fun.
So, nothing crazy, but.
have some confidence in the design that's coming out of it. That's great. Anything else I think that's strange tonight?
No, nothing.
I think we already communicated this, the Noel house broke ground like before.
Yeah, it was early December.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's anything more than, is the slab poured?
I think so. The whole thing is shrouded in tarp.
Yeah, I think it must have been.
But I
That
do
must
believe
be
there
a
was a,
tarp
I
was-
do believe there was a truck there at one point and it looked like they had brought it back up to grade. So probably. So, but they've had, it's been inactive since the weather got cleared. So probably we don't think there'll be much more than take this one up.
Thank you. Item number 3 is advanced planning for the art show.
It's still quite early, but I will send out some emails to our email list of artists in advance of any press releases. And I'm aiming to send out a press release maybe by next meeting, just to give artists.
Okay.
Do we need to talk to James?
No, it's already booked.
Great.
For the months of May and June. We have to.
Yeah. May, June. Did you get as far as talking about the reception date? Okay, maybe in February. We can start that conversation.
I can remember.
Yeah, I think it'd be good, it'd be good to fold that into the first press release.
But then we would need to know. The commission's.
Yeah,
Reception.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
that'd be fine, that'd be fine. But let's have this on the February agenda as well. Other reports, 218 Main Street renovation. The update is just that it looks like they're almost ready to open. We walked by 3 days ago or so, and it looked like there was furniture and just looks like it's ready to open. And I think we can really count that as a success. It's a nice looking.
Very nice.
And I hope that the business thrives. Anything further on?
No, I tried again to. Left a message with. Some employees to contact the owners of what will be. Whatever the new restaurant will be at Boys Village Pizza, but that was. Over a month ago, my second attempt, so I'm thinking they'll just.
Doesn't seem like there's any work on it.
No.
No, I don't think anything much is gonna happen before spring. And I was just hoping to have a conversation to try to give them. Some notice that they will want to come to this. Commission, but also just to get an idea of what they had planned.
Like, did they apply for a building permit?
No, I don't believe so yet, no, and right.
Maybe you could go on the building. No.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
that's what my-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you may have already, but it wouldn't hurt.
I think
Again.
it was more in the context of asking rather than.
Yeah, okay,
Saying, so I'll just go to the next step
Yeah.
and say, please make sure that they're aware. I mean, he probably,
Mike Bain has met with them because he mentioned to me that the drive-through is supposed to go away. I think that's the one change. I haven't seen any people.
oh, okay,
okay,
all right, oh, yeah, then we should just. I can do that.
yep, I'll make that an action item to myself. Item 4C is just, it's really just an observation. Have people noticed at the youth center, yeah. Well, at first I thought that was village property, I guess it's not.
Oh, I thought it is.
And I thought it was too,
Yeah.
guess I'll check. But boy, it's in the front, it's in the side yard and true. So I don't know, so,
See what this.
yeah, it's just, I mean, they were probably in a jam, because I think a lot of the backyard is kind of activity space. Basketball court or something. Yeah. It's just an observation at this point. We would not say yes to that. Any other reports from anybody, other observations in the community?
Well, we spoke about Dr. Morrison's office, which you know, Lorna owns it. Is moving across from Ulster County Savings Bank, that corner, little house.
Oh.
And they're gonna do
Just across their
renovation.
own parking lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, near the Dominican restaurant.
Correct. So we should, I don't know if they applied for building permit yet,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, we should.
I will, in the same email.
Okay,
Great, then, yeah, thanks, George, we talked about that. Right, can everybody picture the building's another former residence that's been a business for all as long as I lived.
What was there before, Tom?
In the basement was a hair cutter, wasn't it? Wasn't that Vincent's?
Was there?
And then I feel like maybe an insurance or something. But it sounds like Dr. Harmos, who's one of the owner of Morrison's business, wants to move the business into. Which fellows would be good. Yeah. So that's good. Anything else? Anybody's doing? The budget report is good, so we're about 60% through the year, having expended only about 32%, so that's good. I'm meeting in December, I think it was December, even November, with the mayor, and Mike Beatty was very good. Quick summary would be, mostly we focused on item 7.4, which is revising the code to accommodate for or to acknowledge the design review function. So that went really well, and actually Mike has already produced a first draft. We also talked about Val's departure, and they were as unhappy as all of us were to hear that, but they also understood that it was time, Val. And did pledge, the mayor pledged that there would be sufficient overlap for your successor to be trained. So we hope in the next couple of weeks or months, we will have somebody kind of train on Val for a month just to see what the whole cycle of the job is. I might as well say that I think everybody knows that the ad went out, I think a week ago, or almost a week ago. And it's going to appear in the newspaper. It's up on village site. Camilla's posted it to our Facebook. I think the village also posted to their Facebook. I reached out to somebody that I think might be a good candidate, and we're going to have a follow-up discussion. She said that she might be interested, and tomorrow morning we're going to have a phone meeting and go over whatever questions she's developed. But if you know of people in the community who might like to do the work that Val's been doing, please put it in your ear. I'm hoping that we can start looking at applications by about the 1st of February, and move pretty quickly after that. Other things from the meeting with the mayor and Mike, it was a very productive meeting. And I think that's probably the summary. The main thing is the code revisions, and as of today, I've sent my response to Mike's first draft. And if you have time, it'd be really helpful to look that over, see if you spot anything that we should talk about in the next iteration. And I'm going to try to meet with him and in very late January, early February. So if you could get me comments by middle of next week, that would be great. It should only,
You want to look at it?
let's get through the rest of the business, see how we are for time. Yeah, so, review that draft. We can circle back to that tonight if people feel like they've got the energy and time. Episodes of the oral history recording, a little bit of progress there. My son is a videographer and kind of knows the world of sound recording to some degree, and we did some tests with the equipment that I have, and it sounds like it would be fine for this purpose. I was worried that it would be noisy or not good, and we allayed that fear. So I really want to get started in the new year doing these little recordings, and then we'll just see where we are. Nice. Yeah. Shane and I haven't talked since the last meeting, but that's still on our agenda, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Did we decide what the next guideline was gonna be? Siding and trim,
Yeah, I think it was siding and
and
trim.
then there was 1 or 2 revisions to the drawings, right, for the window.
Yeah. Yes, we had a couple of little things. I think it's in your report.
Yeah,
But you know, the holidays and everything, just everything stops. We might also want to do one on solar panels.
yeah.
You know, maybe combine that with the AC placement. It depends if you want a lot of little ones. Fewer big ones, but I really like that project in the film. I think it's. So Shane, why don't we try to connect in the next couple of weeks?
Okay, so I'll do the drawing revisions and I can send it to you guys, circulate it via email,
That'd be great.
and I think that'll just wrap up this one. I
Yeah,
guess that was it.
I do think we would.
Okay.
The annual mailing is in draft form. It's pretty much last year's with just a couple of small wording changes.
That's right.
Yeah, so whatever's in red is what Val and I suggested.
Otherwise, it's just the meeting schedule.
And then it's just that, so not a lot to discuss there, but we usually get that out right about now, February. Yeah. So I think we can,
And we did not do the brochure last year, and we're not in, I said, not intending to do it this year.
no, I don't think so. I think there's just too much uncertainty, so. Okay, so that, no questions on that? Okay, it's really last year's letter. Great, so that's an action item for Val. Let's just mention F first. So on January 30th, there's a webinar on surveys. Could be useful to tap into that. I don't know that we have any surveys coming, but it is sort of interesting to know what goes into them. Ours was done 20 years ago and it's very comprehensive. And just a reminder that if you do that or any other form of training, make sure to report it to Val, because we have to report that back to SHPO. Trying to think let's actually look at the draft and then close with 2025 goals. That's very open-ended. So the credit really goes to Mike Baden, who took the current.
Your version with your comment?
Yeah, why don't we, because that incorporates his, so what Mike did is he wrote everything except what struck out and what I commented on. And the whole purpose here is to make sure that the design review board is announced in the code and its charge its charges are delineated. Realistically, most of our charge hinges on another section that's not in this document, which is the zoning, section 212 grants the design review board and historic preservation commission power to review and make suggestions, which is exactly what we did with the family that we've been doing up and down Chestnut Street. So it's a different thing that we're doing. But this is what Mike came up with. He basically built it on the model of a community on Long Island called Plendo Manor. Population less than 900 people, but obviously really concerned about their design. So it's based on this document. And then I just went in and in the case of section C, thought maybe just paring the language down and kind of getting right to the point. I don't know. People object. Mike obviously thought it was worth keeping, but I'm not so sure.
You want to go through it, but at this level of detail,
Yeah,
it clearly should be more than residential. I wouldn't strike residential. I would say residential and commercial.
Okay, that's a good suggestion.
The other stuff, some of that is language the lawyer might want to include or might not. The taxable value of real property stuff is probably not necessary. So, I mean, he took this verbatim from me.
He did, yeah.
So, but I think it. I would say probably just add a note asking the village attorney to write this in a form that would be appropriate for the village of New Paltz and let him do it. But just let him know that it should apply to all buildings.
Okay.
As opposed to any specific class building.
Yeah, that's what really triggered one.
Yeah, but the rest is kind of just sort of what they do. It's just language that is there for legal protection.
Yeah,
Whatever they feel is necessary to provide that kind of foundation, legal foundation for the village to prepare this or revise this. That should be whatever it is.
I just wondering, could we use a different word instead of unattractive, because that's quite subjective.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
What are you suggesting?
I mean, okay.
Yeah,
Because we have more guidance to determine what's appropriate and what's inappropriate.
yeah, did they say unattractive?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fourth to last one.
yeah, I agree. That's
That's
kind of right. That's up to the beholder.
I mean, it is a little different in the design review space because, these for the most part have been new projects on North Chestnut, and they have, for the most part, come to us with good designs. We just talked about details, and so I don't know if, unattractive has come up per se, but yeah, there's no reason to have that word. Michael, to your point about, how deep do we go? Maybe we'll just zoom through and I'll explain my comments. The comment on section 4 is really meant to be before we get to 919. In 918 is a description of membership, which we are not violating because the village board has opened membership up to other categories who don't live in the village. But that's not reflected in our 918. So I'm just saying this is a good chance if we're going to be doing the same thing to broaden that a little bit. The only thing that 918 now says is that somebody affiliated with Historic Huguenot Street can be on the board. So that was that comment. I think you want to take it.
And in 918, section C, which is not in this document, but it says chairman for chairwoman, and I was wondering if you could just replace the chair
Chair.
or vice chair.
Yeah.
Just to be.
Yeah.
Some people might be objective.
We may get some pushback just because chairman or woman is gonna be used throughout village code. And so there may be some resistance to change on the.
But I think in some other sections. Yeah, but I like, the use chair and vice chair.
Okay, then we should definitely do that. Good. Now, could you go to the next section? So Mike just made a verb change there that I thought was further. That's good for now. I just did a little wordsmithing there. I thought that there's some syntax problem going on there. And I just tried to fix that. Good. I think you can go to the next page. What I was adding there is that we also, when the Historic Preservation Commission considers something, it considers a case next to a land, let me put it a different way, a landmark property extends the purview of the Historic Preservation Commission 200 feet in any direction from the property line of a landmark property. So if a neighboring property wants to do something, that building permit is supposed to come to us for a recommendation. And there's a notorious case of where that happened and our recommendation wasn't taken. It's 20 years.
You may want to check that language, as I recall, it just said that it's to be stated on the site. And if there's a
Okay, let's make a note. That's what section 5. Check. Thought I checked that today in another section, but we can ask. Yeah. And then probably the biggest thing in the whole document was section M, which I wanted Mike to clarify. So this is the little dance that we've had since not getting a second historic district, is that we are when we're a design review board, when we're acting as a design review board, our power extends to advisory reports. But this begins by saying we have the power to disapprove, approve, or approve with conditions. And I think that would suggest that we have final say when the rest of the paragraph doesn't. So I would just like that to get really carefully worded so that you know, the public knows what it's being talked about. And then I think we can scroll. There's only one more thing that I'm really waiting on. I think it's section 6 about hardship. Yeah. Or maybe it's later in 5. Oh, yeah. I also wonder if newspaper really means the same. I wonder what's going on elsewhere in the code.
It's gotta be tough to enforce that in newspapers.
I mean, we're still routinely paying for newspaper space to do this, but I don't know who in the community reads the newspaper. I do. A lot of people don't. So it's really a question to probably to Tim and to the village attorney more than anybody. And then hardship was the other. Yeah. Yeah, so I think this is, the spirit of what Mike was trying to do is really good, which is. If somebody objects, then you try to work with the person to figure out some reasonable compromise, so I like that. But I think you have to define. What hardship is before you get into the details of how you negotiate around it. So that was really what I was trying to do with the second with these two comments. So let me suggest, in the interest of not staying here all night wordsmithing, if you could have a look in the next week, and if you pick out something like you did, with, word choices that maybe you should revisit or
Could I,
concepts.
make a couple of sort of higher level comments?
Yeah, please.
Not editorial. I appreciate what he did, but I really don't think this is gonna be successful. I respectfully disagree with this approach.
Okay.
I think the design review board, part of the objective is to clarify the distinction between the design review board and the Historic Preservation Commission, and this fails at that. Almost all of the criteria, for example, in one case, all the powers and duties of the commission are still HPC responsibilities.
Which section is that?
That's section 919.
Okay,
So that's at the very. near the
yeah,
very
right
top.
at the top.
It's all basically what we already have. In fact, it is what we have.
Yeah.
With the exception of M, pretty much, which is gives a, without actually, it just mentions the design review
Yeah.
board shall issue advisory reports, etc. So it's heavily weighted towards the HPC. So it leaves what the design review boards sort of, what's the scaffold on which the design review board is going to operate? Doesn't exist in here. It simply says this is what we do, but pretty much the rest of the code in this chapter, this section is about how the HPC promulgates its responsibilities, which is already in it, so that's not new. So I would say that even, and for future boards and commissions, I would say it's much better to write a separate chapter or a section of a chapter that identifies the design review board as a distinct entity. And basically uses the same kind of layout or any of the others that establish a commission or a board. You have some regulatory responsibility and authority, and have that be the design review board. And the fact that currently they are populated by the same people is sort of irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because they may not always be.
Particularly, if I could just jump in, particularly in consolidated
Well,
community.
then everything's,
Right,
the whole that's,
but I mean, that
Right.
strikes me as much more likely in that
yeah.
scenario.
But then the whole thing has to be reviewed again, because design review in the town is a whole different animal than it is.
Good point.
And
And
that's
have one in the town?
good, but
I don't
or
think so.
They don't.
you might, no, they don't have it, they
Yeah.
could.
Yeah, it's
Or they
good.
might decide to have some,
Yeah,
it becomes a much bigger deal because you're dealing with a rural population, and rural architecture.
Yeah, but even if we just had it for Main Street.
Yeah, right, absolutely. So you could do it in a subset.
yeah.
So I think that's my most important point.
Great.
There are other issues in here that are more akin to what you're have proposed that I have in my notes, and I can send those along. The criteria, the thing about certificate of appropriateness becomes another area where I think it's especially important to have two separate sections or chapters. because we don't issue certificates of appropriate for design review, but this code suggests that we do. And so and this is part of what you were unsure about. It just shouldn't be there. There's no reason to muddy this. The cleanest thing, I mean, codes are muddy enough as it is. Let's face it.
Yeah.
So the easiest thing to do is separate them. And so that's what I have to say about the code. The other thing I have to say related to this is about the board or the commission. And this is I'm just putting this out there. I think that arguably the Historic Preservation Commission and the Design Review Board could be the same body of people, but should meet separately. And that could be done two ways. We could meet once a month and have two meetings, the same way that town has a police commission responsibility. They open the police commission meeting, they close it, and they open their town board meeting. There should be two agendas and two separate meetings so that for the purposes of this person who's going to replace Val and the Historic Preservation Commission vis-a-vis the state, it's quite clear that this is what the HPC wants. And the minutes reflect what the Design Review Board says. The alternative would be to alternate meetings and have a HPC meeting in January and March and May, and have but that may be more awkward for applicants.
I think it'd be highly awkward.
Yeah, so that may not be suitable, and nobody wants to meet twice a month, so not recommending that. But opening and closing is there's precedent, and it's like something to consider, and I think it would.
Yeah, I like.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
just keep
Never
everything
heard
cleaner,
that.
you know, for future, and then if the boards split. If the boards do, eventually bifurcate and become separate bodies, then you have a whole set of design review board notes here that are not muddied and mixed up with the HPC.
excellent.
So those are my two big comments on this. So.
I think they're both really good, and I will carry them to Mike. I was gonna say that there's also maybe something to be taken from the ZBA, which I think doesn't meet as regularly as we do when there's business, which is not in the month. I don't think. So there, I guess where I was going with that is there may be meetings when there's no HPC work.
Sure.
And the meeting is open and closed. But yeah, Michael, thank you. Those are all really good suggestions. That might be a nice segue into the other thing that we should talk about before breaking up tonight and try to keep it fairly short. And that is goals for this new year, 2025. I think clearly like code revision is a goal.
Rachel, do you want the budget worksheet?
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you for, so the budget request came just Friday. And thankfully our budget's a pretty straightforward thing. I think we need to,
See this one?
yeah, we can see it, but I think you need to go to the top of the table.
I think, I'm not sure I can navigate it actually very well, but.
That was doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. So the request came Friday and it's due the 27th, so there wasn't a lot of time. But the budget is never a particularly difficult thing. The major differences in this compared to the current budget is we're going to have a new secretary at a certain point, and so all I could do was estimate what the hourly rate would be. So I don't really know who's going to be hired or what the decisions going to be made, but I think it's a reasonable guess. And I went potentially a little high in the hours because we're going to have an overlap period, And it's reasonable to assume that the new person is going to learn the ropes and things that Val does really quickly. May take a little time, so the personnel expenses is definitely the highest we've ever asked for. And then everything else is flat. Or almost flat. Except that I thought this might be an occasion to get a new computer. Which is down there. And I'm just guessing $500 gets a usable computer.
It's a little low.
Is it a little low? Should we?
Unless you buy a used one from.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we should do this too. Now, what kind of shape is that's the?
This
village-
is mine, yeah, it's sort of like an, Brad used. I think there may be a separate one that Nicole uses, in each of her meetings,
Okay,
but I know that Brad. Also uses this.
how does that sharing arrangement work?
And basically you just log into it, and as long as you can get into the various accounts to use Zoom and to go on YouTube. It works pretty well. You know, honestly, when I do my work outside of meetings, I use my own computer now.
You find out easier.
Just the little one. No. It's sort of less.
Yeah, I think, and we probably can't assume that the new secretary would be comfortable using this.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. She won't.
Should we bump that up? I really have no idea.
Yeah, and for a laptop,
Yeah. 700?
yeah, 750.
Yeah, it's that's.
Okay. That's not, is that a live document? So I would
And I
suggest,
think because most features are disabled on this, I probably can't.
okay, well, I'll just make a note to revise that. Does anybody foresee anything else that should be in the budget? It's in there. Oh, a bit,
Yeah, it's just.
we can try, yeah. Do you wanna add $50 then? Okay. We can do this section. Okay. That's acceptable to everybody, that's what I'll put in, those 2 revisions and then send it off maybe from tonight. It's, in the past, it's been kind of moot because we're always within budget. Because some of these are
Not always. But the one section of the budget can sometimes
substitute, so far Nancy's been very amenable to that. Thank you, Beth, thanks for reminding me. Let's close by, just talking about goals, so. Right on top of my head is code revisions and training new secretary. I would also like to get the oral history project going after roughly 4-year gestation period in my head. But I think it could be a really nice thing for us to take on. Design guidelines.
Yep.
Other things. I think maybe a conversation with the town HPC about what happens if there's a dissolution / consolidation. Maybe just invite them to our meeting, do something, maybe outside meeting time, but I think we should be talking about that.
Who's the chair, Thomas?
John Orpatelli.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, still, he's the longest serving chair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he was the first chair.
Yeah, it is.
He said it was for the century. And he and I get along great.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, we
But
should.
at some point, I think we gotta take a look at it with the town, this level surveying, was recommendations.
Yeah. Yeah,
That basically they're all really not.
yeah. Yeah, we did the survey for a reason. I would say too, let's just keep our eyes open all year, so that we don't let the partners in preservation die. I think it's the right choice this year not to make any awards, but just let's keep our eyes open and hope we see something in life. That may be a new building. That's just not is renovations. Anybody think of anything else?
Talk to the fence.
Yes, yes. Yeah. The meeting, friends meeting, have 7 minutes, the end of it, probably. North Van, huh? Yeah, yeah. Over a year ago, I had a very informal conversation with Alan Ross, who is a member of that congregation, and there seemed to be some interest in maybe having the building be landmarked, which is another great example of building beautiful, craftsman style
Oh, yeah.
columns. Thank you, Val. Yeah.
Plans to it.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, all of her comments. I guess maybe the railroad project, and it's not really anything we're gonna do, but just to keep an eye on it, see if it goes. That's great. Thank you, Isabel.
It's the town HBC landmark. Have they
Yes,
landmark properties?
not as many as we have, but they ran into a lot of resistance, so they immediately did a survey of the stone houses and proposed landmarking. I think all of them. Very few wanted that. Okay, so I think their work is quite different. I've really perceived this over the years. They don't have the kind of monthly business that we do, and they should have, as a result, seem to go after grants and do things with maps and things like that. So if the boards combined, it could be a nice synergy.
Yeah, we were taking a look at town HBC code. I don't know if it's based on a model code from the Department of State.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were written at the same time.
So,
When the boards were formed at the same time.
okay.
And my guess is that the same model language has been out, what they've done since then. Right, but yeah. Right, is there any other business? How about a motion to adjourn?
The motion to adjourn.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Second, I'm sorry.
Stephen did. Yeah. Thank you all very much. We'll see each other in a while.
I have it announced.
Michael has nothing outside of the meeting.
This is likely my, yeah, we should end.
Yeah, I thought